Hello and welcome to this edition of Awaken and Ascend. I am Jennifer Regular, your host, also the founder over at Lighting the Path. And today I'm doing a solo episode because I really want to delve a little bit more into the shift that we've been going through for decades now, moving out of that survival mode into truly thriving. If you've been feeling that nudge to live more of a true, authentic life, then you're really going to appreciate this episode. And I'm not talking about it in terms of like poverty into prosperity or survival in its more basic sense. I want to talk more about the shift from your job or career into your calling. You may have felt like your job or career was your calling when you first stepped into it, when you worked at it, when you interviewed for it, when you were studying for it, when you went to all those years of college or university to get into that field. And then somehow it just faded. That passion, that energy, that enthusiasm that you once had. I know in my career of over 20 years working in social services, working with various populations, being in that helping profession, that I saw a lot of people come through there that I was training that were eager. They wanted to help people, they wanted to save the world, they really wanted to make a true difference. And it didn't take too long for them to lose that enthusiasm. And it was so disheartening because we become disillusioned by the systems that are so constricting and restrictive that we're not able to have the kind of impact that we want, that we don't find the fulfillment that we desired. And yet we keep going through because we expect it's going to change in some way, that we're in it now, that we, took on this role and we want to dedicate ourselves to that. And this is what I find in those in the health professions, in the helping professions in particular. So, like nurses and doctors, service providers, change makers, and the helpers that are out there that really come from the heart to feel a vision, a healing, a call to truly make a difference. That you step into this role that you expect so much more out of, and it doesn't measure up. And so you drain yourself. You identify so much in that role that you kind of lose yourself in it. And so that's why I want to focus on shifting out of that kind of survival where you're just making it through the next day and the next day and the next day, doing the best you can, wanting things to change, into actually thriving, restoring that call that you once had. So maybe realigning with your why and taking a different approach into your work. See, shifting from the career to your calling doesn't necessarily mean you have to change jobs. Although I tried that 16 times, in fact, trying out different roles, working with different populations, hoping things would be a little different if I just changed my environment or the type of role or the organization I was working on, until I finally listened to the call for freedom, for peace, for fulfillment, for being more of who I truly am and being able to bring that into my role. So I moved out of the role to role way of relating and shifted into wanting to connect more soul to soul. And this is really what answering the call is all about. I love these cards from Denise Lynn, these native spirit cards. And this is the one I actually drew at the beginning of this month, reminding me about answering the call. So we don't fall back into those old patterns that leave us playing small, dimming our light, or making us feel constricted again. It helps us stay aligned, keep us centered and grounded in living our values, what we truly stand for, and dedicating ourselves to that. And I know there's so much that I can offer on this topic. I know there's probably a lot of aha moments that are going on with you right now. So I'd love to see and hear that in the comments. What is this bringing up for you? Have you been feeling a nudge to move more into a different kind of life, a different kind of work or service? What are you feeling the call for right now? And maybe it's not in the area of your profession. Maybe it's in the area of your relationships or home or where you're living right now. Maybe you're feeling a call for more. And I'd love to hear what that might look like for you. So let's take a moment and just jot something down. What are you feeling right now? What's coming up for you? What's alive in you? Love to see that in the comments. I can tell you that what's often true amongst the health and helping professionals and the like is that we're trained to give and to give and to give. And there's little room to evolve outside of our structures or institutions, or even to be able to rest or replenish. There's just no time for that. Constantly needing to make up for the lack of staff or lack of resources in other ways. There's just no boundaries, no opportunities for replenishment. And so burnout, compassion fatigue are extremely common. And there is some differences between burnout and compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is very residual. There's a lot of differentiation actually between them. And I can put a link to an article I wrote about that in the video description below if you're interested in leaning more into that. But basically, it's feeling mentally, physically, and spiritually depleted. No room for reflection, creativity, or visioning, or dreaming, or exploring other possibilities for your life. You're in survival mode in that case and barely surviving when you're feeling that exhausted, that depleted, that burnt out and suffering from that compassion fatigue, from always wanting to give and nurture and help. And as an empath, especially, it's even more pronounced because we really feel so deeply for others and the collective energy as well. And so it's really important to engage in self care and soul care specifically so that we don't keep reacting to life. We actually begin to embody it. Identity loss is also very common, where we just lose our sense of self. We don't know who we are outside of that role, and that creates some fear and self-doubt. We just don't know what to do and who we are outside of that role. We see this a lot in parenthood as well, right? When the kids go off or when they're older, people going through empty nest or when they have actually time off and they don't know what to do with themselves. They don't know their role. They don't know how to act. And when we talk about authenticity and restoring our sense of self and our true essence, then it's really about who are we when we're by ourselves. That's the true us. And I really love when I see people having the opportunity when they come to see me, for example, to start looking into who that might be, to reconnecting with that core essence, that identity, the sacred identity, and understanding our sacred responsibility for being here at this time. To use your unique gifts and abilities to create beauty and change in this world. So, not just to fill a role, but to actually have some influence, some innovation, and you that's being expressed through that role. So it's not just about changing jobs, it's realigning with your why and seeing if it's still a good fit for you where you are right now in your job, your career, your relationship, your location of where you're living. Is it still a good fit for you, or have you outgrown it? Or is it just taking too much from you that you need a space to grow, some room to breathe, to kind of repot yourself, right? Basically, if you become too root bound, too constrained, to kind of transplant yourself, to transcend, to transform, and be in a place that allows you to blossom, to bloom into your fullest glory, where you have greater impact and influence. The systematic constraints are so real, as I touched upon earlier, and we feel trapped by it, right? The policies, the administration procedures, the rules and responsibilities, the outdated models that have existed for eons and aren't supportive to the way that we're evolving as a collective currently. And that's why we see so much destruction and confusion and chaos right now, is because it's no longer a fit and no one's really doing anything about it because we've been stuck in that survival mode for oh so long. So, what can we do to start actually thriving, to be living a more fulfilling life, to understand who we are, what our interests are, what we value, and how we can live up to that? How we can stop breaking promises to ourselves to do something differently and start actually honoring that nudge, that call, and answer it. to answer that call and do something a little bit differently that's more life supportive for you, to start trusting in your inner knowing again and allowing your soul's guidance to lead you just into the next step. It's okay if you don't see the big picture. I know that we want to, especially when we're feeling like we have a very secure job and we have a great pension and we're counting on that steady paycheck because we know what to expect and we know what to do with that. It takes a lot of courage to rise into your calling, to really step into that. And that's why it's really helpful to have some support around that, which I love our Leadership Ascension Alliance for. And if that's something that you want to look into too, 'cause it's such a safe and nurturing environment to just be yourself and have the resources and tools, especially the people that you need to surround yourself with. So I'll put a link to that below as well. And, my motto is to free your spirit to direct the life that you're meant to live. So you don't have to have it all figured out. It doesn't have to be an intellectual, mental thing. Allow your spirit, your heart to lead you. Take your brain along the way, as the saying goes, but follow your heart, right? That over time, your light starts to dim. And some people go right into a dark night of the soul, even, and long to connect with their divine purpose, their original purpose, what they're meant to be doing in this lifetime. And those are some of the things that we talk about too. And one thing that doesn't often get talked about is the unprocessed grief and trauma. The unprocessed grief and trauma, even secondary trauma, especially for those of us like myself that have been in helping professions where we've been exposed to people with addictions and homelessness and domestic violence, and taking on that kind of trauma that they've experienced, having constant exposure to that, taking on the emotional burden of that, carrying it for them. And it's okay to care, just don't carry. It's depleting, it burdens you, it puts you into place of all the shoulds, right? When you start shoulding of yourself, when you carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. What is starting to be talked about, though, is about the moral injury. And I'm so grateful that that's being talked about right now. There's a lot of weight that we carry, but there's also a lot of influence you can actually have that's more freeing, more fulfilling, and helps you to feel lighter because you operate from your light, from your highest truth of who you are and what you bring into this world and what the world and life has to offer you as well, to be able to open up to that experience, to receive it. You need space to do that. When we're so exhausted, so depleted, we might not have the energy to do the core work. And for visionaries, it's actually the energy and passion that has the greatest impact. And that's where I tend to focus on through lighting the path, is that energy and the passion and how we can sustain that. In fact, when I was completely depleted from so much loss and so much emotional burden, choices that I had made that just didn't work out for me, wasn't living up to my potential, which drained me, and lying in bed, staring up at the ceiling. And then all of a sudden, I had this spark, this energy jolt that jolted me up out of bed. And it gave me a new perspective, a reframe of what passion actually is. Because when you break up the word passion, this is the breakthrough from that breakdown, is that it's pass I on. That I is your soul's expression of what you're here to pass on in this lifetime. So I went on a huge healing journey after that, rediscovering who that I is. Who am I, right? What am I? And how am I supposed to live in this world and bring my gifts and my abilities into it in the best possible way that actually serves a higher purpose? And that's why I created the sacred leadership archetype, actually, because it's a very helpful tool to kind of just assess what your more innate gifts are, where you operate from, what you already bring in before you even enter into this world, and what you've built up as a result of living and learning up to this point. And then we have these great alignment exercises and so on. Anyways, that's a whole other topic. If you want to find out more about that, just check out the video description below. But what keeps people stuck is like these golden handcuffs, right? The security, the pay, the reputation. But essentially, what I find over and over again is that people really long for meaning. I know I did. A deeper purpose, a deeper reason for doing this work, for living here. And you might even feel guilt from wanting something different, right? It might feel like you're abandoning others or you're letting people down or disappointment. At least I know that's what I went through when I was deciding to leave my profession. But you know what? There's so much more you can offer yourself, your family, your friends, your world when you really step into and activate your higher potential. And so consider that. Don't just change jobs for the sake of trying something different. Be really intentional about it. Come from your center, restore your sense of self before you do anything, and operate maybe from your soul for a change. When you look at the acronym for soul, it's about sending out universal love. And love as an acronym is lots of vital energy. So again, we're coming back to that place of energy. So what can you do to re-energize yourself, your mind, your spirit? I'd love to hear that in the comments. And if you need some help with that, then maybe check out some of the other videos or get in touch with me. You can always reach out. I always have my website and information down in the video description there. There's so many wonderful interviews of people from around the world. The wellness advocates, healers, and change makers that I brought on the show are phenomenal. And we've all had a journey for sure. And so we touch on that a little bit and then what we've learned along the way. And there's such amazing insights that come through that. And it might inspire and empower you too. So subscribe to Awaken and Ascend if you haven't already. Maybe share this video, inspire someone else today. Maybe that's your next step, right? Or listen to it again and just really feel into it. Feel what you need, what is sparking some intrigue, some curiosity within you that you want to explore a little deeper. I invite you to do that and to join me again next time on Awaken and Ascend. I'm Jennifer Regular. Bye for now.